All right. Thank you. Assalamualaikum, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I'll be talking to you guys about some mindfulness techniques for the everyday parent. With Ramadan being around the corner, I want to spend a few moments just to give you guys very practical tips to help you stay calm, given that this Ramadan is going to be very different. We're not used to having socially distanced Ramadan. I know this is the second one, but I think, the spirit of Ramadan is that we're around other people, we're feasting. And so I'm hoping that the few techniques that I'll go over today will help you guys be more regulated and less hangry this Ramadan. So the purpose of today's webinar is to provide educational information. The tips and tools shared in the presentation are not meant to replace any directives provided by your own healthcare provider. Today, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about who I am. I'm going to talk about what mindfulness is and isn't. Then I'll be going over 3 very simple mindfulness techniques. First will be belly breathing, then the grounding technique, and finally going over a body scan. I'll also be sharing some resources for you. So a little bit about myself. I am a school and clinical psychologist, and I practice out of Ontario, Canada. I'm also a father of 2, so I know very well what it's like to be an imperfect parent. Part of my job is working with other parents to help them become wiser, kinder, and stronger adults so that they could better meet their children's needs. I'm also one of the founders at Cedarway Therapy. And in my practice, we provide both assessment and therapy services for kids, adults, families, and couples. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is a type of meditation, and there are different types of meditations. But unlike other types of meditations with mindfulness, we are tasking ourselves to become intimately aware of our thoughts, of our emotions, of our impulses. Basically, we want to know everything that's happening inside of us. So unlike other more passive meditations, mindfulness is very active. We have to put a lot of effort into becoming aware of what's happening inside of us. Typically, when we think of meditations, we think of being asked to clear our minds. And actually, that doesn't work because whenever we tell someone, hey, don't think about what's stressing you out, well, I've just prompted them to think about what's stressing them out. So rather, with mindfulness, what we do is we want the person to really be able to recognize what's happening inside of them. Mindfulness mainly consists of 2 parts. There is a breathing part, and then there is a visualization or thought exercise. The visualization or thought exercise can be either self-guided or it could be guided by someone else. The key part of mindfulness is being present. And being present consists of 2 things. It's knowing as well as accepting. So knowing is being able to turn inwards and know and better understand what's happening inside of you. This includes things like your emotions, your thoughts, physical sensations, even impulses and urges. The second part of being present is accepting. So we want to observe what's happening or recognize these thoughts without judgment. Rather, we want to let these things, as they appear inside of us, allow them to leave as well. We're not going to resist or try to change these things. The goal of mindfulness is to help you achieve a state that is very calm. And that is done by activating your parasympathetic nervous system. So our nervous system consists of 2 parts. The part that's responsible for down-regulating us or helping us stay calm is called the parasympathetic nervous system. And so with mindfulness, we're able to activate that part to help us achieve a calmer state of mind. Sorry, 1 second. I'm not sure what that means. Yes, okay. Sorry, guys. Sorry, I forgot to mention that there will be Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, please submit them in the chat, and Sophia will be submitting the questions later on to me. So I talked to you guys about what mindfulness is. I want to tell you about what it isn't. And as a psychologist that aims to provide evidence-based practice, sometimes it's frustrating when I scroll through Instagram or social media and I see mindfulness being presented as a magical solution that's going to solve everyone's problems. The reality is that mindfulness is what I would consider part of someone's coping or treatment, especially if they have a diagnosed condition. But mindfulness alone is not going to make everything better. Mindfulness on its own may not be sufficient. So typically what we do with clients is we will incorporate mindfulness as part of a larger treatment program. You may have noticed that I said that with mindfulness, the goal is to accept what's happening inside of us, including thoughts. And now for someone that has irrational beliefs or thoughts, so for example, catastrophic thinking, which is assuming the worst case scenario, and that's typically seen in individuals who are anxious, then mindfulness alone is not going to combat these thoughts. So mindfulness will help the person recognize these thoughts, but it's not going to help them change these thoughts. And so while mindfulness is very effective and there's a lot of research behind it, I just want to clarify that mindfulness is not a magic wand that is going to solve everything. There's a lot of research that's been done behind mindfulness, and research has indicated that it's very effective in reducing overall stress, and that speaks to the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps to downregulate us. Research has shown that it's had a positive impact on individuals with depression and anxiety. And because mindfulness helps people achieve a calm state of mind, we typically use mindfulness with children to help them with their inattention and hyperactivity. Mindfulness is also very effective in helping people with sleep issues, especially people who struggle to fall asleep. And so mindfulness could be a way to sort of shut down your mind and help you sleep. So the first technique that I want to teach you guys is taking deep breaths. So I'm going to take a second and ask everyone to pause and take a deep breath. And as you take a deep breath, I want you to notice how your body is responding to that deep breath. So I'm going to count down to 1, and then please take a deep breath. 3, 2, 1. So what did taking a deep breath look like? If it looked like this on the right here, this cartoon, then actually the way that you took a deep breath and the way that most people take deep breaths is actually more stressful on our bodies. And that's because when we take a deep breath from our chests, what we're doing is we're activating muscles that are not meant to expand that much. So when we take a deep breath through our chest, we're calling upon our neck muscles and the muscles in between our ribs to really expand. And that's very, very stressful. Taking or using or breathing from our chest is meant for shallow breathing. That is actually a very good way of breathing when we use our chest for that. However, when we take a deep breath, it actually should be a belly breath. And that's through, or that occurs by engaging the diaphragm. And that's the muscle underneath our stomach. We call that diaphragmatic breathing. So when we take a deep breath, what we want to do is really expand our stomach as we inhale and contract our stomach as we exhale. Again, so we're going to take a deep breath in through our nose and we're going to push our stomach out. And then we're going to exhale by pushing our stomach back in. Okay. So one way that I help clients understand this or visualize this, especially if they're used to this kind of breathing, is that we're going to pretend like our stomach is a balloon. We're going to pretend like our stomach is going to expand when we take a deep breath in. It's going to contract. The balloon's going to get smaller as we exhale. Okay. So I'm going to count us through a breathing exercise next, if you guys want to follow along. I want you to pretend like this circle at the bottom is your stomach, and that's your stomach contracting and expanding. So as you breathe in, it expands, then it contracts. Into your nose, and out through your mouth. So belly breathing takes a lot of practice to get the hang of. If you find that as you're doing belly breathing that your chest or your shoulders are rising or your chest is expanding, then there's more room for improvement. And it takes a lot of skill to be able to just call upon your diaphragm when taking belly breaths. The second type of technique I want to talk to you guys about is a grounding technique. Now, grounding techniques are a catch-all phrase for any kind of technique that helps us stay present in what's happening around us. So there's a specific grounding technique that involves using our senses. And if you guys want to follow along with this one, I'll walk us through it. Can you think of 5 things that you can see around you? What are 4 things that you can touch? And as you touch these things, really be mindful and aware of what that sensation is. What are 3 things that you can hear? I can hear my son outside. So I don't know if you guys can hear him too. What are 2 things that you can smell? And finally, what's 1 thing that you can taste? So again, this grounding technique can be used when you are finding yourself becoming very worried about the future or thinking about the past. With this grounding technique, you can bring yourself back to the present by relying on your senses. So it's what are the 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. And allow yourself as much time as you need to do this technique. Obviously, for the sake of this demonstration, I went through this very quickly, but it's okay if you give yourself more time to figure out what these senses are telling you. Another technique is called a body scan. And now with the body scan, we're becoming more aware of the physical sensations throughout our bodies by focusing our attention on each part of the body with openness and acceptance. So this can be done either sitting in a chair or lying down. And I'll be walking us through this exercise as well. If you'd like to take a few deep breaths, if you'd like to close your eyes, go ahead. And pay attention to your breath as it goes in and out. Slowly scan your body from head to toe, bringing your attention to each area of your body. We'll start with the top of your head, moving down to the sides of your head. Bring your attention to your face, to your forehead, to your eyes, mouth, and jaw. And now to the neck and shoulders. Take note of any sensations you may feel without judging or trying to change anything. And it's okay if while we're doing this, you become distracted by something else. So if another thought or impulse enters your brain, recognize it as such. So you can say, this is a thought, and bring your attention back to the meditation. Bring your attention to your upper arms, your forearms, your wrists, and hands. Now to the torso, the chest, and upper back. Be very mindful and aware of your heartbeat and your breathing. What does your stomach feel like? And lower back. Notice any thoughts that may be running through your mind and just let them go. Bring your attention back to your body. Notice your hips, your thighs, and knees. Down to the shins, calves, ankles, and feet. Now, become aware of your body as a whole and feel how your whole body is connected. Finally, bring your attention back to your breath, and for a few moments, feel your entire body expand and contract with each inhale and exhale. If your eyes are closed, you can open them. So some things to consider when we're doing a mindfulness exercise is a lot of time people will tell us, Adam, we don't have time to do a full mindfulness exercise. And some exercises go up to 20 minutes long. And this is where I would challenge the person to try to find moments of mindfulness. So we don't need to do an entire exercise, but perhaps there is a few seconds where we can be really mindful and really present. So for example, if you drink coffee, can you focus on the taste of your coffee when you're drinking it, rather than just gulping it down? When you give your child a hug, can you focus and pay attention to perhaps what your child smells like? Perhaps you can find time right before you sleep, You're on your mattress, your eyes are closed, and you take a few deep breaths, and this is where you practice mindfulness. Obviously, with Ramadan around the corner, perhaps we'll have more opportunities for worship. And are there ways that we can incorporate mindfulness into that worship? So, for example, if you are praying, can you take a moment to really think about what you are saying? And perhaps you don't know the meaning of everything you're reciting, but maybe there's one or two words that you recognize. And so you'll be very mindful of these words. Something else to consider that I am such a big advocate of is to help parents realize that the calmer that they are, the more regulated their children will be. And so really prioritizing your regulation, and if that requires you to do some mindfulness, then that will only help you become a better parent. And for some parents, it's sometimes removing themselves from the busyness of their kids or the busyness of Ramadan and finding a way to seclude themselves for a few moments. Perhaps you have a special area where you pray, or you have an escape room that you can go to. Something else which is really fun is to try to do this in a group format. So with your whole family, or you can have one person guiding the family with a mindfulness exercise. I want to share with you guys two resources. There is the Sabr app, which is a Muslim-focused mindfulness app that has some guided meditations. Okay. Another resource that I find helpful in my practice is the Mindful Games activity cards. You can get that off of Amazon. And basically it has different cards with different kinds of activities that parents can do with their kids around mindfulness. Thank you for listening. And I'll ask Sophia to let me know if there are questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and Sophia will pop back on to read the questions.
All right, thank you so much, Adam. All right, we do have one question in the chat.
Sure.
So they say, thank you for the information. Can you elaborate on mindfulness or being mindful, and what are the first steps in understanding that state for someone who's not familiar with the term?
It's a really good question. So mindfulness is just about being present, and it's a skill that requires a lot of practice. So some people are turned off by it because they will try it once or twice and they come back and say, Adam, I couldn't do it. I couldn't focus. It was too hard. And the reality is that it takes a lot of practice. And so my recommendation to my clients is, focus on just the breathing. Get the belly breathing, perfected before you try to do the guided meditations, because the breathing itself will be very helpful to help you stay calm and regulated.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. I think that was it.
Okay. No worries.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for coming on. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say thank you everyone for listening. I hope that with these techniques that you'll be able to have a better Ramadan. I can only imagine the stress that parents are under now that there's a lockdown as well. And so perhaps with these techniques, you'll be able to find, a few moments throughout your days where you can, have refuge from the chaos of life.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Assalamu alaikum.
All right, cool.